먹고 싸고 먹고 싸고.
라면 먹고 갈래?
Okay, did I decide to learn Korean because of K-drama? And when I eventually meet Lee Dong-guk Oppa, there won't be any language barrier between us.
죽음이 당신을 찾을 것이.
Hello guys, Studykorean here. In today's video, I am going to be sharing with you why I decided to study Korean, my whole process, what I use and apps I use to studying the language, and my general thoughts on learning Korean and Hangul.
Why did I choose to study Korean? First, there was no particular reason. I was bored from staying at home and I had a great idea, which was, you know what? Why don't you learn a new language? Then I stood up from my bed and then I wrote down 4 different languages I would love to learn, and surprisingly they were all Asian. The first was Korean because it was the first Asian language I was ever exposed to, thanks to Boys Over Flowers period. And then I wrote down Japanese, obviously because of anime, and I wrote down Chinese. This was honestly because I watched History Close to You and Make Our Days Count. And lastly, Thai, well, generally because of Bill and Bright and Dew and Win and Nani and Gon, and I could go on and on and on. But I eventually chose Korean because of one simple thing: the letters, or should I say alphabets. Hangul. Yes, Hangul seemed a lot easier to learn and has shorter alphabets unlike the others. I'm not so sure about Thai, but have you seen the Japanese hiragana or katakana? My first thought was, how do you have so many alphabets? Kilode? Well, don't get me wrong, I do want to speak Japanese someday, but it seemed really overwhelming and I just couldn't. Even though I've seen a lot more anime than K-drama, I still chose Korean because it seemed a lot easier, honestly. And I'm not even into K-pop. So yeah, Korean. I definitely would say I'm a beginner, and so far it has been fun to say the least. The pronunciation of the Hangul letters are quite tricky, especially with the b, p, and the d, and I still can't go past romanticizing the alphabets. But I know in time I would get a hang of it. That's if I don't get bored again. How and what do I use to study? So there are thousands of resources online to learn language with, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. I did too, till I gave up at a point because I didn't know where to start from. But I watched a bunch of YouTube videos like my own here that you're currently watching, and I kind of found my bearing and I found a system that works for me. So let's talk about those systems. First was textbooks. I personally find textbooks a lot easier to understand and a lot easier to make notes, coming from my normal school work days and trying to learn this language. And the first textbook I checked out was Korean for Dummies, but I didn't use it because I'm not a dummy. Like, who calls themselves a dummy? But after checking out this textbook, I honestly didn't understand a thing. Wait, guess I'm a. Then the next textbook, which is also the one I am currently using, is Korean Made Simple for Beginners. And yeah, it's pretty easy to understand and navigate. I highly recommend you using this textbook as a beginner. And the second textbook I use, which is not actually a textbook but it's in text form, is howtostudykorean.com. It's a website where you can download PDFs and it comes in different parts. And I also do highly recommend you using this textbook. Now, YouTube. For YouTube, I started with conversational Korean, but I believe if you are still a beginner, you shouldn't use them yet. So also only Korean, I don't think I got that right. I only use a platform on YouTube, which is korean101.com, because they have classes ranging from beginners down to advanced learners. And I know that after reading a part of the textbook, I go over to YouTube page to correct my pronunciation because I usually get it wrong, and since native speakers teach the language, it's a lot easier to get it. Talking about pronunciation brings me to my third resources, which is apps. I only use two apps to learn and understand Hangul, which is Write It Korean and Duolingo. To be honest, I use Write It Korean a lot more because it teaches how to write each Hangul vowels and consonants correctly and perfectly. And when you're done with practice, there's a test that guides you, and you kind of get 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, depending on how well you did the test, and you can retake them over and over again till you master Hangul. This was actually the first resource I used because to understand a language, I believe you need to learn the alphabet, and Write It Korean is perfect for understanding the alphabet, for understanding Hangul. Yes, but for Duolingo came in after I used Write It Korean, and it's actually also a great tool to practice your pronunciation and understanding Hangul, and also forming sentences and knowing the right placements of alphabet. I use it most times after using Write It Korean, so I kind of use them interchangeably. So I highly recommend you use them. Now, going to how I study and my consistency. I can't say I'm the best when it comes to consistency. I'm terrible at that. I should be given an award for inconsistency. But I actually just try my best to keep up with a schedule. I usually study for an hour for 3 to 4 days in a week, depending on how good that week is, which I believe is pretty okay because I am not a serious learner. I'm just trying to learn this language for fun and also to sound smart. When like, how many languages do you speak? I'm like, I speak 3 languages: English, Moiso Yoruba, and Hana Hangul. So yeah, I believe I've said a lot, and I hope I could help out in any way. If you're also beginning your Korean lesson journey, I would say it's nice to watch these kinds of videos to guide you on how to start or just how to go about it. But nothing beats finding out what works for you. Who knows? You may prefer learning with videos than textbook. Unlike me, I prefer learning with textbook than videos. So yeah, we are at the end of the video. I hope I was able to help. I'm going to keep you updated, or I'm going to keep you posted on my Hangul journey, on my Korean lessons journey. So do hit the notification bell after you subscribe to this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Dalakbo out.
가장 최선의 방법은 나 혼자 죽는 거였는데 그래서 여기까지 와본 건데 사랑하지 않는 게 안 돼요, 케빈.
I love you too, Dong Kyung.